They're sitting there talking about trans rights and affirming transgender ideology, but then they're saying that Caitlyn Jenner, who is probably the most famous trans person, that doesn't count. Because Caitlyn Jenner is not only a Republican, but Caitlyn Jenner also calls out biological men competing in women's sports. So your guests sit here and they cry boo-hoo tears about trans rights, but then they dismiss Caitlyn Jenner. It's amazing. These are also the same people who claim to be feminists, but also don't care about actual women being robbed of opportunities. That's why liberalism is a disease, and you can just let these people talk and they argue with themselves, Piers.
The point is...
Hey, y'all. Before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you for clicking and all the recent support that you guys have been showing to the channel. I just want to tell you that I sincerely appreciate it, and every time you guys click one of my videos, you are contributing to helping my dreams come true. So I just want to tell you that I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for spending some time with me every day. So with all that out of the way, we're going to delve back into this topic of biological males playing in girls' sports and women's sports. The Olympics just finished, and there was the big story about the Algerian boxer with XY chromosomes who was participating in the women's boxing category, who eventually went on and took the gold medal. And rather than letting the story kind of die off over time, I want to keep this one hot in the news so people don't forget about it until the next time that this happens. So I'm going to give you a live reaction to this debate that happened on the Piers Morgan show. And from what I know of these people that are on the panel, this should be interesting, and this could get pretty spicy. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it, so let's go ahead and just get right into it.
And the Oregon girls 200-meter state champion last week, posting one of the fastest times in the state's history with a remarkable display of power and stamina. But as Aiden crossed the finish line, something, well, pretty unusual happened. Instead of joyous cheering and adulation, many of the watching spectators loudly booed.
Lane 4 is Esther Jones of Roosevelt. Lane 5 is Sophia Castellano of Emory. Esther Jones of Roosevelt.
Well, the same thing happened when Gallagher received a gold medal on the podium, but the runner-up was loudly cheered when she received her silver. And there's an explanation for all this. Gallagher is a transgender athlete who was born a biological male and therefore has a vastly superior physiology to show for it. And as viral video clips from the race show, Gallagher towered over many of the competing girls, displaying greater height, power and speed that frankly made a mockery of any pretense to fairness or equality. Yes, trans people deserve the same rights and respect as everybody else. They should have fairness and equality. They should have the same human rights as me. But you can't consistently assert the massive physical differences that come from being born male or female and compete in sport. Those rights cannot come at the expense of women's rights to fairness and equality in their own sport. Now, for years, anyone prepared to speak up about this, like me, was instantly shamed and vilified as a transphobe. Tommy, let me start with you. I watched a video of this as a father of a 12-year-old girl who loves a bit of sport. And honestly, my heart just sank. But when I heard the booing, I was thrilled, not because the athlete was being booed. I felt awful for the trans athlete, but because I finally felt that the silent majority were finding their voice. What did you think?
Yeah, I also think that it's big that this happened in a place like Oregon. Oregon is not conservative, maybe certain parts, but certainly the majority of Oregon is certainly more on the left side. So I think the fact that the crowd is saying, hey, this is unacceptable, that's a big moment. But we just have to stop denying this, Piers. I mean, the silent majority, and I would agree that the majority, actually, the more vocal majority now, is saying that this is absolutely ludicrous. And listen, I think we need to stop talking about biological men competing against biological women in women's sports. This is a trans person, a trans woman competing against actual women. Stop dismissing women by calling us biological women. We are just women. So I want to put that out there first.
Yeah, I agree.
Why are we constantly, and when I say we, why is popular culture constantly asserting that trans people, their feelings, their emotions, their inclusion is more important than the majority of women who just want to have fairness, want to compete, want to have achievements, accomplishments, and opportunities? Why do their feelings matter more than the feelings of the women that they're competing against? It's ridiculous. We keep coddling and kowtowing to this madness. I hope we're seeing the end of it, and I think within the next couple of years we will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed that every woman, frankly, doesn't agree with you. because the unfairness and inequality is so obvious. But Francesca, I can see you actually going berserk here with indignation. So presumably you don't agree.
I mean, please don't speak for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, either of you, please don't speak for me. Please don't speak for all women. Just let's get that out of the way right now, because I do disagree. I think about, what if your 12-year-old kid was Aiden? Wouldn't that be incredible? Wouldn't you be proud of Aiden?
No.
And how much would it...
No, absolutely not.
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with Piers Morgan here. Miss Francesca, I would not be proud if my 12-year-old son was participating in girls' track, okay? I would feel like I have failed my child as a father and allowed people to influence my own child beyond my ability of parenting. And I absolutely would not allow my 12-year-old son to participate in any girls' sports. He would be participating in boys' track or nothing at all. It would be as simple as that. You want to live under my roof, you're going to follow my rules. I know that might sound old school and you call me a boomer or whatever, but that's just the way it is. And I think I speak for the majority of Americans when I say that.
Unless that child had not even reached puberty, and in the case of my daughter, for example, and someone is trying to convince her that if you just put your hand up and say that you're a boy, you can suddenly compete against a different biological sex. I'd say it's all madness.
Piers, this is what's crazy about it. Do you think that that's what's driving trans women to compete as athletes, is that they're like, if I transition to become a woman, I can win a gold medal in a high school track and meet competition.
Well, no, hang on, Francesca. I don't care.
That is so absurd to me. It's the same thing. Hang on, let me speak.
I don't care. The reality is they're doing it, right? And the point is that, to me, the answer is obvious.
They're not doing it to win a medal. They're doing it because that is their identity.
But they're winning medals at the expense of actual women who can't compete with them physically.
Okay.
It's why we separate the sexes.
You know what? Like, I actually Googled this.
Hang on. I'll come to you too.
I'm embarrassed to be a woman when I see women freaking out about trans women winning one out of so many competitions.
It's not just one.
Okay,
it's happening in swimming with Leah Thomas.
Hang on.
It's happening in all sorts of sports.
Yes, because it makes us look really pathetic, honestly. It makes us look like losers and whiners, and guess what?
Wait a minute. Nobody thinks that a woman who's complaining about a biological male participating in their sport is a whiner or a loser. And the fact that you think that way just tells me that you've never participated in any kind of sport that you dedicated your life to for any period of time. Because if you would have, you would understand that sports are only fun when they're competitive on a fair playing level. It's why we separate the boys from the girls or the men from the women in the first place. It's why we have weight classes in wrestling and boxing. It's why we have pro levels and amateur levels and college levels. For two reasons. Nobody wants to watch an unfair matchup, and two, nobody wants to just go out there and get their butt kicked. And don't even get me started on when it comes to the locker room situation.
I'm not a loser or a whiner. You know what I actually want to talk about when it comes to women's sports? Why is Caitlin Clark being paid 80 times less than her counterpart entering the NBA?
Well, that's quite straightforward too.
Because nobody watches it. You know what the issue is?
You
know what the issue is? They are useful idiots like you that are validating ascientific nonsense. There's no such thing as gender identity. Being trans-identifying is a mental illness. A reality that exists only in your head should not be validated, and specifically not at the expense of people that are just going about their business trying to win sporting tournaments or trying to use
There's
a loo.
useful idiots like you that are leading to the death of trans people.
Because guaranteed,
all right, let Francesca respond.
Then you can basically go to an island where all women think like you, and you can compete with all the biological men you want, but do not impose your backward views on the rest of us and have the audacity to call us regressive.
Okay, Francesca, you respond. I'll come to James.
My response is this: look. I care more about human life and people actually. I care about the right to privacy. I care about people surviving and living in this world. Yes, I do.
You don't seem to care about the right to privacy of biological women not wanting to share their spaces with biological men. What about them?
What about the number of trans youth who
No,
commit
hold on.
suicide
Don't play
every single year?
What about biological women not wanting to
useful
share
idiot.
a bathroom with a biological man?
Shut
Talk about
up
that.
half a
Don't do what
second.
about, answer that question. What about them? Do they not matter?
Look, lady, you can go into every bathroom and pick a fight with every person who you think is in
With
the
a
wrong
penis?
bathroom. That's your
If
prerogative.
a man goes into a bathroom with
I'm
my
talking
daughter,
about a teenager,
what should I do?
A teenager being booed. Guys, let's not bully, okay? I believe it was Melania Trump who said, "Be best," and we know what bullying leads to. Stephen Miller.
You know
okay?
what it
want
Bullying,
to see more of
okay, but
those.
Francesca, I'm going to come to James, but because to me there's conflating two issues. You can absolutely support trans rights to fairness and equality, as I do and consistently have, but you can also see that there is obviously a massive problem now increasing now in women's sport. And there's a reason, and we've had this conversation, James, but you gave a preposterous answer last time. There's a reason we separate sexes in the Olympics, in the World Championships, because otherwise women would never win anything.
Look, I think...
So that's why we do it. It's not because women aren't great athletes.
Women would never
They're great
win
athletes
anything.
when competing
What a quote
against people
is.
physically born
Listen,
like them.
I have so much to say. I want to explode.
Go on, then.
Firstly, Esther, you're the only thing making anyone angry or incensed right now. So you're causing me a mental health issue. So really, if there's a mental
maybe you
illness,
could
it's
join
actually
your
you.
friend- your
I would
pronoun
like to take a
friends.
pill
You could all be
to
mentally
remove
unwell
you
together.
from my life.
Yay, the
Going back to
they-thems.
the state here, like most of the female winners in this sport, they are hitting around 22 to 24 seconds, which is exactly what the gold medalist won here. And then also following up with what you said.
What's your
Esther,
point? What's your
So
point?
My point is, this is
slowed
normal
down.
for a
So
woman.
No, you're
This is
missing
the
the
normal
point.
speed for a woman
No.
in a race.
You're
But
missing-
let's get back to what you're
No,
saying.
hang
You're
on,
talking
no.
about
Hang
women's
on.
safety in
Hang
changing
on.
rooms.
Hang
Let me
on.
finish, please.
On that
You're
point-
talking about women's safety in changing rooms. That's what Esther
Which
brought
you
this
know nothing
conversation
about,
down to.
because you're
But
not a
what I
woman.
do know about is that one in
Oh.
3 women in America are abused violently in their lifetime. And in every single day in America, 13,000 women are a victim. Why are we talking about one trans woman being
How
in a
dare
changing
you?
room?
How
Okay.
dare you, a man, say anything about women feeling unsafe
I am
in
allowed to talk
bathrooms
about safety.
with biological men? No, you can't, because you're not a woman. You have never had a period. You've never been a woman
What
in a
I'm
woman's
saying,
toilet.
Esther, is
so
that
don't
you're
even mention
picking
that.
on one. Well,
I'm not picking on that. I'm talking about the fact that women around the world
Sorry.
are being affected because we are validating
Okay.
a
so,
scientific
but wait, you're
nonsense.
shouting at biological men.
Hang
your
on.
words. Why
Hang
am
on.
and you're allowed to talk about biological men. So
I'm
why am
talking
I not
about
allowed to talk
women.
about
I'm talking
women?
about
Hang on,
women.
Sorry.
in other spaces.
hang on,
I'm talking
hang
about
on.
other spaces.
She is cooking. Let her cook, Piers.
We are conflating various issues here. So let's get back to the actual issue we want to debate, which is the issue of this young sophomore, Aidan Gallagher. I come back to Tommy here. You know, I know this debate always inspires everyone to get very angry, and there's lots of allegations of transphobia and so on. I really think they're missing the central point. There is a reason we separate sexes in sport. And the reason, like I said, when the Olympics are in Paris later this summer, if you allowed women and men to compete in a generalized way, then women would win almost no medals.
Well, you know what, Piers? This year's Paris Olympics actually did allow it to happen. And oddly enough, it was in a full contact sport, women's boxing. And wouldn't you know, you're right. The women did not win gold.
Literally, other than 1 or 2 events, possibly equestrian, possibly archery, there are very few things which, anything that involves power or stamina
Washing
or
up.
speed or snow.
Piers, can I ask you a question really quickly?
Yes.
Because have you ever undergone any kind of like hormone replacement therapy?
Oh,
or
you mean
anything
chopped
like
off his penis? Because
No,
that's
I haven't.
Hang
No.
on, hang on. I'm not talking to you, Esther.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay.
I'm talking to Piers.
Yeah.
Because actually, the body does undergo an incredible amount of toil.
What it doesn't
when you
do,
actually-
Francesca, I've heard this
Hang on,
argument.
hang on.
It
No,
doesn't
so- but
change.
there-
It doesn't change your body mass.
No,
It doesn't.
It
No, it doesn't.
It does.
No,
it
it doesn't.
absolutely can change your body
No,
mass.
it doesn't.
Absolutely. The
It
amount
doesn't.
of
You
hormones
remain
that
as
can,
muscular.
it
You know, I know
drains-
this. Talk to someone like Caitlyn Jenner,
Piers.
who was, as a man,
Oh my God.
was the decathlon gold medal winner for the United States of America, and was then, when she took up golf, having transitioned, was told she could tee off
Asking Caitlyn
from the
Jenner.
women's tees. Right, the women's tees are 50 yards further ahead than the men's, and she said she was winning every tournament.
Asking Caitlyn Jenner for any advice or practical information is like asking you, Piers, for how to get a six-pack. Like, what are we doing?
Actually, I've got quite an impressive
Very true.
growing six-pack, as my Instagram feed
The
will tell
point
you.
is
Let
that
me-
your
let me
body
come to-
undergoes a lot of
Interesting.
changes.
Let me come to
It's actually
Tommy.
incredibly
Piers,
difficult
I
to
want to
compete.
point this out.
Tommy.
Piers, I want to point this out because your guests here, I mean, talk about the snake eating its own tail. They're sitting there talking about trans rights and affirming transgender ideology, but then they're saying that Caitlyn Jenner, who is probably the most famous trans person, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because Caitlyn Jenner is not only a Republican, but Caitlyn Jenner also calls out biological men competing in women's sports. So your guests sit here and they
Caitlyn
cry
Jenner.
boo-hoo
Trans
tears
women.
about trans
Trans
rights,
women, please.
but then they dismiss Caitlyn Jenner. It's amazing. These are also the same people who claim to be feminists, but also don't care about actual women being robbed of opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why liberalism is a disease, and you can just let these people talk, and they argue with themselves, Piers.
The point is, if Aidan Gallagher competed according to their biological sex, they would not be succeeding. They wouldn't be winning state championships. They would actually not even be qualifying for the finals. That is the point everyone's missing.
Piers,
is that actually
why do you care about
women's integrity, women's sport?
But you don't. Have you done a segment on Caitlin Clark and pay disparity? Have you done a where were you when the U.S. women's national team?
He doesn't need to.
in the United States?
You have no idea.
Shut up, Esther, for the last time.
Well, hang
Please
on.
shut up, Esther.
Francesca,
Oh my God.
you have no
Oh my
idea,
God.
actually.
Shut up.
You have no
But
idea
Piers,
what I've said about
when
women's
the women's
pay.
What about when the women's national team wins in the United States, right? They've won like 4 times at this point. And what happens? Oh, Megan Rapinoe, who is both a lesbian and also like one time knelt during the national anthem. She's not a real patriot. They freak out. Donald Trump tweets about her.
No, you're
Everyone-
missing Megan
Women.
Rapinoe.
Can I just
Megan
say-
Rapinoe is a very, very good football player, but also incredibly irritating. And I noticed that when she retired, it was only then she said that she wanted trans women to be playing in the American women's national team. In other words, when it wasn't possible for that person to take her position. Because here's a scenario for you. Lionel Messi puts his hand up and says, actually, I'm feeling like a woman today. Do you play him in the American women's national team, Francesca? Yes or no?
Lionel Messi
Layla
had
Messi.
to undergo an incredible
Yes or no?
He had to undergo an incredible amount of treatment when he was young. He had a bunch of like.
Would you allow him to
all kinds
put
of
his hand up,
medicine and
say he's a
everything in order
woman,
for
and
him
play
to
in the
actually
American
grow,
women's
'cause he had a
national team?
growth spurt. I'm a big Messi fan, so. But let me just
Well,
explain this
answer
to you.
my question. Would you allow him, if he said, I'm a woman, to play in the American
You're
women's
using
national
the
team?
wrong pronoun
Yes, yes, right now. Hell yeah! Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Messi on the U.S. women's national team. Hell yeah!
Would you
because
allow
that would
Usain
mean-
Bolt to do that and be in the sprinting
Yes,
team?
because that would mean they're a trans woman. They identify as women.
I get it.
You would have to
So just to be clear,
transition.
you would let Lionel Messi play in the women's national football team and destroy
Hell yeah,
women's football
welcome.
forever. You'd let Usain
I mean, it'd be
Bolt.
very difficult
Hang on.
to get a ticket,
Hang on.
which would suck.
I want to do a little checklist here. You'd let Usain Bolt compete as a sprinter in the American women's Olympic team.
Yes.
Okay. You would
Yes.
let Floyd Mayweather compete as a boxer in the women's American boxing
Yeah.
team.
Yeah,
you
of
are
course
a
you have to be,
complete
like, the
and utter
heavyweight, no.
lunatic.
I completely agree
Lunacy.
I agree with Francesca, and I'd go
They
further.
would
Actually,
have
Piers,
to
you always.
transition.
Piers,
Okay, so briefly, I just gotta ask, because she just said they would have to transition. So what does that actually mean? Does that mean I just made my mind up yesterday? Or does that mean that they have to chop some stuff off? Or what? To what level? And to who would be the arbitrator? Who's the one that determines that they transitioned far enough to to allow the person to play in the other sport, the other category, the women's category? It's just completely absurd. Francesca needs to stop while she's ahead, which she's not even ahead. She just needs to stop, right?
you always say that you want to be a penguin. I would let you live at London Zoo in a cage like the rest of
You
the
know
penguins.
what? I'd be a very popular exhibit.
You would, and you'd be
Esther,
locked up.
Esther,
You really
here's the
would.
problem.
For the rest
It
of
is
the
so
world.
delusional. The idea you would let Usain Bolt say, I'm a woman, and compete against women on a racetrack when no man can compete with him, right? It's utterly ridiculous.
Well, I'm just convinced that they don't actually believe this, but to the logical conclusion of their ludicrous arguments facilitates the need to actually say these things. Also, this is a testament to the poor quality of public education in both the US and the UK, that you both don't understand the basic economics of how sports entertainment works.
Yeah.
If there are not enough bums on seats, you don't get paid enough. That's literally it.
That's it.
So sitting there outraged about the fact that some female players don't make as much as some male athletes, guess what? Go and buy the tickets to their games and start boosting up their viewing figures, and then maybe we
Caitlin
Look at the
Clark
I think
more
Francesca's
views.
point-
Look at the
got-
revenue for the Women's World Cup and compare it to the Men's World Cup. They are light years away.
Can I say
It's
one
light
thing?
years
Caitlin
away.
Clark was the most watched women's college player ever. The ratings were through the roof. She's getting sponsorships
Compare it to the
left and
average
right.
male college viewership.
Okay, we're
Compare
gonna
it
move
to
on.
that and
She
Look,
had more views than them.
We are moving on to a different issue.
Well, all right. That was pretty entertaining. I had a good time watching it, and I hope you guys did as well. Let me know your thoughts on allowing men to participate in the women's categories on collegiate, high school, and Olympic levels, pro levels, which, you know, doesn't really happen in that case, but we just saw it in the Olympics. And I will say, to Francesca's last point there about Caitlin Clark, she did have the most viewers for a very short amount of time. And frankly, Caitlin Clark has revolutionized the WNBA. She's opened up the WNBA to being able and allowing them to potentially make more money. So she has had an effect. She has transcended the sport. And guess what? The majority of that sport, the WNBA, is made up of LGBTQ plus and woke individuals, and they hate Caitlin Clark. So they're ungrateful for the fact that she's actually bringing to them what you just fought for, what you were just arguing. It's a pathetic world. This woke ideology is destructive, and it's very obvious to somebody like me who's watching and paying attention from the outside. We'll see if Caitlin Clark's popularity maintains throughout the rest of her career. They did just leave her off of the Olympic team, which was a bad move. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I truly did. And I wanted to remind you guys, you can see my live show on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's called the Jar Openers Podcast, and my co-host is Atlas Thugged. He has his own channel. Go check him out. And other than that, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel on your way out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.